Qualitative Analysis Lab. This will be an intro to the Qualitative Analysis Lab, which we will be running during the week of January 10th and January 17th, with a little spillover or makeup time in the following week of January 24th, which is the final week of the quarter. Let's see, it's about a week and a half project, but those are two shorter weeks with partial days, so that should work pretty well. And we got some spillover into the following week if needed. Let's take a look. I'm going to go to a screen share with this document so you can see that. And let's see, here we go. We have the Qualitative Analysis Lab. I'm going to get a little marker to point some things out. And so you're going to be a scientist. You're going to be trying to figure out what's in a test tube. So I don't know if you can see this very good. Well, let's try to get a black backdrop. There is, it looks like kind of a white solid powder in here. And we'll assume that that's an ionic compound. And you're going to be asked to identify that ionic compound by identifying the correct cation, positive ion, and correct anion, negative ion. And you're going to be running a series of tests to figure that out. So I might just jump to the chase here a little bit here. And it says an unknown ionic compound with one cation and one anion. And here are the possible cations. What looks like lead 2, nickel +2, calcium +2, copper +2, potassium +1, and silver +1. And then your anions, the carbonate ion, the sulfate ion, the acetate ion, the chromate ion, the iodine ion, and the chloride ion. So what could this compound be? It could be lead carbonate, lead sulfate, lead acetate, lead chromate, lead iodide, or lead chloride. Or it could be nickel carbonate, nickel sulfate, nickel acetate, nickel chromate, nickel iodide. So it's one of these 6 cations and one of these 6 anions. So if you did a complete guess, you'd have a 1 in 6 chance of guessing the cation right and a 1 in 6 chance of guessing the anion right, assuming you're the average guesser in doing this, which gives you a 1 in 36 chance of guessing the ionic compound right. Well, I think we can improve the odds by doing some tests, and that's what we're going to be doing, and that's really the point of this lab that we're going to be running. So I'm going to scroll back a little bit, and I think these learning targets define what we're going to be doing pretty well. Perform multi-step chemical reactions to identify distinguishing characteristics between cations and anions. So we're going to test all the cations and look for similarities and differences in how they react. And the same thing with the anions. And then we're going to use those to figure out ultimately an unknown by matching it up to what we've seen with knowns. Ultimately, not only are you going to identify the right ionic compound, but you're going to use supporting evidence to defend your choice. So there's a part with the right up there that we're going to be looking at too. This is how it's going to maybe look as you're getting your data. If I'm doing the carbonate ion, or if I'm doing the negative ions, I can look at this, and there are 6 ions that run down here. You can't see them all at once, but notice I have the first 3. I'm going to do a sulfuric acid test, and I'm going to boil it. Okay, then I got a different test with mercury nitrate and nitric acid, and then I got a third test, which has 3 components right there. So you have 3 tests, but each test has multiple steps, and you're going to be seeing similarities but differences between each of these things. So again, out of all 6 things, no 6 should be identical, or every one of them should be at least have some differences in some of the tests. So when you do an unknown, you can match it up and see which one matches up best to what you're trying to find out. Okay, why are there 2 unknowns? You're going to do a team unknown, and then you're also going to do an individual unknown. So you're going to actually do all this work to get the data set up, and then you're going to get to do 2 unknowns, which you're going to have to figure out. Okay, it works the same way with positive ions. There are 4 tests for the positive ions, but they don't have so many parts to them. So these ones actually go a little bit quicker, and you got lead, nickel, calcium, and it'll go on down through here. So read through this. That's, again, a very brief overview of what you're going to be doing, but read the packet and get a pretty good understanding of what we're going to be accomplishing right there. This on the next page really summarizes how we're going to be looking at things. You got the background information. There's some pre-lab questions. There's the procedures. You're going to look at those and summarize those. You're completing your data tables. And then ultimately you're doing your unknowns and then coming up with a conclusion for those. Okay, so that's kind of how it's lined up. And here are your pre-lab questions. There's a place to write right in here. Those are your procedures. And what you're going to do is you're going to do a summary of your procedure for anion tests before you come to lab that first date, which would be Monday the 10th. And you should have the anion test procedure summarized. Okay, it doesn't have to be a lot of detail, but maybe bullet points, however you want to do that. Taking a look at that, what, 1 or 2 pages of procedure, and actually just breaking it down into the core things of what you need to do. So by taking a time looking at it, coming in with a plan, it's going to make lab go a lot more smoothly. When you get to the cation tests a couple days later, you're going to do the same thing. Read the summary. I think it's a 1 page of things, and you can just summarize some key things there and break it down in a brief summary. So you have that and you're ready to go. Okay, data tables are in here that you can fill out. I do have hard copies available, or you might do everything on the computer and maybe just do your data tables hard copy. You can mix it up how you want to, what's going to work best in lab. Okay, ultimately, there's a spot for the concluding paragraph when you're doing your unknowns and what you're working with right there. Just throw this rubric or grade checklist. If it's a 60-point project, you're going to see the pre-lab is 6 points, the procedure summary is 6 points, the data tables are 16 points, and that's going to leave 16 points for each unknown. Part of it is based on correct identification of things, but then a lot of it's based on your reason and rationale. So if you get the wrong thing, you're not going to get full credit, but you can get a lot of the credit by showing the right reasoning or showing good reasoning and logic in your choices of things. So yes, you don't have to be perfect in identifying both unknowns to get, even an A for this lab if you're doing the other things well. All right, that's an overview. I think I'll do another video with just a little help with the pre-lab. And thanks for watching.